Fox. This line has been all over the place since Danny Parkins weighed in on it this morning. Vikings now
He's so
favored.
good.
He's excellent.
He is
I
so
can't
good.
Which does make
We got
sense.
here.
Vikings have won 8 straight. They've already beaten the Packers in Lambeau, and our top 3 vibes team, after Justin Jefferson said the team felt like his championship LSU squad. So I'll open it up for discussion. Brew, you love the Packers. Who do you got in this one?
I got the Packers. They need this one. You know, as much as I like them, and
Why do you think they need it?
Well, they haven't beaten any of the
good,
great, Philly beat them once,
Detroit
twice, and Minnesota once. And I like them, and I have liked them better than Minnesota. So I got them right up there with the other Detroit and Philly. But that first game they lost to, and that was Jordan Love's first game back from the knee injury. He had no mobility. So he was hit like 10 times, sacked, I think 4 times.
He threw the ball 54 times.
Right. And he couldn't move. Like, now, obviously, first half he had 2 interceptions. They're down 28-0. Then they outscored him 29-3, and he has 4 touchdowns. So he kind of found his groove. But now he'll be more mobile. And as you said, Coach, they give up a lot of passing yards, 3rd most in the league. And here's the thing. They blitz. We know they blitz all day and all night. And he is great against the blitz when? After week 11. Like, he is great. I don't know what it is, but something about week 11 onward, which I like. He peaks at the right time. That's Andy Reid's favorite saying. So here we go. Look at that. 1st in the league in completion, passer rating, and top 3 in yards per pass. That's versus the blitz.
Why are we doing week 11?
Because that's when he
better.
turns it up. He kind of takes his measurement of the teams in the first 10 weeks. Here it is, right here. You know this.
This is the type of stuff that he used to do with the Prince, that you used to be all over him.
No, this is different. This is legitimate.
I'm sitting right here.
This is wild. You think this is legitimate? He gets better when coach. You want to peak
2 years
at the right time, right?
Okay. Just week 11, like it takes him 10 weeks to be like,
He's just taking his measurement, kind of practicing, as some people might say.
They don't. Those other teams don't have the right to do that. Go ahead.
I think it's also a little bit of them figuring out what to do with Jordan Love, and that's a problem. So he didn't do really well early last season. Then he lit it up late. Then he got the big contract. Then they start out the year.
This year he did get hurt early in the season, which probably hurts.
No, I understand, but really the key number is 30. So he needs to be under 30 attempts, 30 or less. So when he's over 30, he's 2-3, and he's 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Okay, that's a problem. So once he goes over, or under 30, he's at 7-1. So they need to keep him there. That's kind of the space, and we've talked about this before. This game's going to come down to turnovers. Last game, there's 7 combined turnovers. Both teams are great at takeaways. Both teams are great at sacks. So it's going to be who manages that aspect better. And I think Green Bay has a real edge in the running game, and that's going to help them because they have more balance than Minnesota does. But keep them under that 30 number. Still hit the bet that I talked about earlier, so that he gets the most yards of that group of guys and win the game.
Can I pitch something to you?
Yeah.
And I'm playing with fire here because I'm going up against this coach. Josh Jacobs, the last game, had 9 carries for 51 yards, the fewest carries of the year. Vikings rush defense, second best, only 87 yards, giving up 87 yards per game. I know you're not a Vikings guy, but do you want to go with the Vikings here?
Well, so here's the deal. You guys have been gassing up Danny Parkins so much. I saw this morning one of his picks is the Packers. Somehow he gave himself an extra half point plus 1.5. Maybe that's why his record's so good. He's just stealing half points. People aren't noticing.
Is anyone fact checking?
Exactly. Someone do an audit. Who is he getting these from? Bodog? But regardless,
offshore
this
betting.
game will be featured prominently in Nick's picks. So stay tuned. About a half hour.
Love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to.
All right. Let's talk about this game. I'm actually bummed. I made a video earlier saying that I was really happy that the Atlanta Falcons and the Washington Commanders are the standalone game. This is the standalone game. This needed to be that primetime game. But this is still good. I like these later games, the second batch of games, because there's less games and you can really kind of get more locked in. Because this game is like, oh man, this is so box office. I'm so conflicted. I'm going to talk now strictly from a general fan perspective. Like, a part of me really just wants to be able to see Minnesota win this game, and so this can all come down to the final game of the season, Lions versus Vikings. like we get an extra playoff game where like the stakes can have like true Super Bowl consequences. And so it's just like I love that. I love it. I want it to all come down to that. The final week of the season is going to be such a massive nothing burger for like every other team out there, and so we have the chance to like have something like really, really matter. And I just love it, man. That's why I love these games. But that aside, I'm gonna take that aside. This is a very, very interesting game because a win or a loss means so many different things for both of these teams, at least from the way how I view it. And I am going to, and for these types of takes, like I really try to not care about necessarily, oh, well, if they win, it has to do with seeding and things of that. You're going to maybe get this seed. If you lose, well, now you no longer have a great chance to get that. Like, we know that. That's obvious, right? Like, that's generic, right? I could be like, Minnesota needs to win this game. They need to be able to get the number 1 seed. Like, yeah, we know. Of course. That's obvious. That's obvious. But I always try to look beyond that. And so when I look at both the Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, right, the Packers want to be able to send a message to themselves and to everyone else like, yo, we can beat top teams. Everyone keeps trying to act like we don't beat top teams. We're legit. You got to stop. Here, we're coming. But on the flip side, if they lose, in a way, because of this team, because of the culture that they have, it will almost be that rallying cry of kind of like, people think we can't beat good teams. Just wait into the playoffs. Like, in a way, like, I don't think it would actually hurt them. I don't think the Packers are actually fragile from that standpoint. I really, really don't. So I think like there's certain other teams where like a loss against, if they keep losing to some of these better teams, then it would really kind of be like, I don't know, can they beat these better teams? I actually don't get that feeling from the Packers. And with Minnesota, it's 8 straight wins. You win these next 2 games, I mean, you are going to feel on fire. Absolutely on fire. I mean, you're going to feel like you have all the momentum. You have the number 1 seed. Like, everyone's been talking about the Eagles and the Lions and the Packers and the this and the that and the Chiefs and the Ravens, and it's like, you all forgot about the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know why. You doubted us every step of the way. Look at us now. And you really get some. And I think the Minnesota Vikings, from a cultural perspective, will tremendously feed off of that. I think they love it and will live for it. I think that's, that type of mentality and energy is how you're going to get the best out of players like, Addison and Justin Jefferson. I really do. And I think like you're just going to get such a why not us, look out for us mentality from the Vikings. But on the flip side, if they drop this game or if they drop to the Lions, it'll be, uh-oh. Did they peak too soon? What's wrong with them? Is Sam Darnold finally turning into a pumpkin? Like, and again, it's not so much that the media narrative matters, but I'll be honest. The media plenty of times can get it completely wrong. And they can say certain things that I think are just fundamentally wrong in terms of when they're trying to like put a certain message, vibe, energy, however you want to define it, on teams. But sometimes they actually are just kind of magnifying, maybe too much, but still magnifying what is actually happening. And so if the Vikings did drop these last 2 games, there would be a legitimate like, uh-oh, in the locker room. There would be a genuine feeling of what's happening. We won 8 straight games. Now we lost our last 2. These are 2 tough teams. We didn't beat them. Man, we really got to make sure we get our act together. And again, it also depends on how you would lose potentially, but it really does matter. And that's why, and I kind of reference this in a few other playoff team videos that actually I think that have like real potential. It's like you want to be the team that finishes strong. You don't want to close out this season in the way where you're like, we really got to clean this up. We really got to make sure we don't do that in the playoffs. Like, you don't want to be that. And you look at the Ravens and the Chiefs, they're probably the 2 best examples of like really taking care of business over the last couple of games. And the message in those locker rooms are just through the roof. if you're the Ravens, you're feeling right now like we got our act together. Post-bye, we are on fire. Nobody's stopping us. Bring on the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that's great. You won 15 games. I don't care. We got this. Let's go. On the flip side, you got the Bills, who now had a rough loss. Yeah, they beat the Lions, but they gave up 1,000,000 points. Some garbage, but still not the most ideal way to win. As well as definitely not an ideal way to win against the Patriots. And now you're kind of like, what's going on? Like, are you going to get back to that more like dominant, ferocious team that you were just a few weeks ago? Like, what's going on here? And you can feel the tightness. You can absolutely feel the tightness. Not to mention if they lose another game or have another rough game against, say, the Jets, like it really does snowball. And so that's what you want to make sure that the Minnesota Vikings don't do. Playing just great football matters. Now, it's tough because some locker rooms, I think, just getting the win matters, even if you play ugly, even if it's a sloppy, weird win. And there's other locker rooms where I think, like, you know what? Actually, playing high-quality football, even if you get the loss, you have the maturity, the coaching, that, you know, the understanding of we played great. Yeah, we didn't win. That's just life, but we actually played awesome. We played really well. And I actually think that's who the Vikings are. I think it's split. I think majority of the locker room, I think, is like that. I do think you have a few players with the Vikings, and I'm on the fence whether or not I want to say names or not. But there can be kind of an emotional pulse sometimes to the Vikings, and I do feel like some pretty special weapons out there for the Vikings. You just want to make sure the vibes are feeling fine. Okay, you want to make sure the vibes are feeling fine because I think some of the players on the Vikings, they really, really catch it. Some people really shine in adversity. Some people really shine when everything is great. I know for me, in various situations, whether it be sports or personal life, whatever, like, I actually shine most when I have to overcome adversity. When, to just use, to keep it with sports, like, I'm better when I'm down 10 than when I'm up 10. And everything's great. Like I am definitely more of that underdog. That's where I thrive. And there's some people, and it's not saying like that's better or worse in any other situation. Like I don't see it that way. But there's other people when things are going well, they can skyrocket. Like again, perfect example. I played with someone growing up, and one of the best athletes I've ever played with my entire life, without a shadow of a doubt. Just truly, truly special and elite. And when things were going well, truly untouchable, just untouchable. But when the chips were down, not so much. That's where I would shine. That's when I could take over. And it's just different. It's different levels. He could reach higher levels than me, but I had a different depth of resilience to it to a large degree. And at the end of the day, again, I'm not saying that, you want me over him or you should have him over me in that situation. Because at the end of the day, he actually made it further than me, quite frankly. So it just, again, it is what it is. But I think that's why when you have a couple of these pieces with the Vikings, that I think like if you can keep that energy and that vibe high, like I really think that can absolutely be the sky's the limit. I think that could absolutely be. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that the Vikings can't overcome adversity or that they're fragile. Like, again, watch any of my clips about the Vikings. I've been a huge defender of them. But it's just when I look at this team, I think they're going to be even greater when they are coming from a higher place than when they are coming from a somewhat lower place. And I think like if they can do that, it is the difference between rolling and just having a tougher, grittier game. And it does start with taking care of business at the end of the season. It really does. You just don't want it. Look at it as something as simple as the Philadelphia Eagles losing Jalen Hurts and losing to the Commanders and giving up all those yards to Jaden Daniels and 5 touchdowns. We can explain that game away, and I have. But at the same time, it's like that locker room now has to reconcile. That defense has to reconcile. They were feeling over the top, over the moon. We got this. We're the number one defense. No one can stop us. Now they have to kind of figure out, how did we give up 5 touchdowns to Jaden Daniels? How did we do that? And so it's just, it's just all things that you want to make sure, or that you want to try your best to kind of mitigate at this point of the season. I'm not necessarily a huge believer in the whole peaking too soon or peaking at the right time, but I do think there is an energy that can peak or kind of go at the right time or the wrong time. I do believe that, because your play is your play. You're either going to be able to figure out what you need to do to put yourself in a position to win, or you're not. You either have the right pieces or you don't. But in terms of energetically, that ebbs and flows. It's no different than sometimes you wake up and you just feel pretty good. You actually feel kind of happy for no reason. And there's other days you wake up, nothing has changed, and you just feel extra irritable, and you just like can't explain it. You're just like, just not really in the mood. Yeah, I could watch this show, but I don't really feel like it. It's just not that funny to me today. Like, it just happens. And I do think that can be a real thing with the locker room, for sure. And, taking care of business right now can go a really, really, really long way. So hopefully that made sense. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings? Who do you got just in general, the Vikings or the Green Bay Packers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.